All right, folks, that'll do it for the 2024 NFL Draft. It is a wrap. We just had Mr. Irrelevant go off of the board here, which means we are segueing directly into UDFA. It's probably already started as I'm recording this video. Anybody who didn't get drafted is up for signing a contract with anybody who contacts them. Every team gets a certain budget to sign UDFA players, and every team gets to negotiate with any non-drafted players. So things are still going on this day 3 of the NFL draft. I don't consider it done, and I do plan on staying here for at least a little bit longer so we can see how things pan out in the initial phase of UDFA. Now, some of the top guys that remained on the board will probably get snatched up quickly, but at the same time, a lot of the top guys that are still on the board may also want to negotiate for additional signing bonus that might take some time to play out. So basically, at this point, I'm just going to be on X listening to some of the big names out there in UDFA beat writing and just see who the Seahawks sign with and see where some of these bigger names end up landing. But if you look over to my left here, you can see a brief introduction to some of the names of guys who I expected to get drafted fairly early in this draft that are still undrafted. You've got a couple of guys who I thought were going to be third-round picks. You got a handful of fourth-round picks as well. And really, overall, there were about 40 guys that I had draftable grades on that didn't make it. Now, that's not terribly surprising. That's going to happen pretty much every year. But some of the guys that completely slipped through the cracks, like Curtis Jacobs and Javion Cohen, even Leonard Taylor III, do not make a lot of sense to me. How could nobody think these guys are worth even a 7th-round pick? How did Fabian Lovett or Bo Braid or Blake Watson get all the way to UDFA? I don't understand it. But the day is not yet over, and I'm going to continue to follow it for at least a little bit longer. So if you want to come on by the stream and hang out as we start to solve the UDFA stuff, then be my guest and do so. Once we get an idea of what the UDFA Seahawks class is going to be, I'm going to go ahead and cut a video and talk about the guys we picked up. Really, UDFA never stops. So it's not like at the end of the day, you can't sign any more UDFAs. No, UDFA kind of goes on ad infinitum. So I'm not going to sit here and say I'm not going to make a video until we're done, because we might not be done until September for all we know. But these first hours of UDFA should be somewhat telling. Typically, you do start seeing guys come to agreements very early, like immediately after the draft ends. So I'm sure we'll get some news, and we'll see what kind of things the Seahawks are starting to gravitate towards. All right, so it was an interesting day 3. To quickly talk about the picks, it wasn't quite the overwhelming success of the first 2 days. Vast majority of people approved of what we did on day 1 and day 2. Today was a little bit more mixed, I think. Today was Tyrese Knight. Why would you take him when Trotter's there? Why would you take AJ Barner when Cade Stover was there? These guys are 5th-round values. Why are you taking them in the 4th? Why do we need 2 cornerbacks? Why do we need more offensive linemen when you already took all these offensive linemen? I can kind of understand that there was a little bit of hand-wringing, but once you get to day 3, for me, I'm not really going to be upset about anything, right? You can't mess up day 3 that much. I think it could have been better. I do think our day 3 could have been better, but it certainly was not bad. There's no pick that we made that made me unhappy. There are some picks that I thought were suboptimal, but it's very rare you make a pick, your team makes a pick that you actually think is flat out optimal. I like Tyrese Knight well enough. I think he's developmental, which is a really good pick for the Seahawks situation, because they have 2 starting linebackers for 1 year, and then they get 1 year to hopefully figure out if this Tyrese Knight guy is going to be something. There are some things he's got to clean up. There are some rough edges there for sure. And I will admit, I think it's a little bit curious that you had the opportunity to get somebody like Jeremiah Trotter, and you went with Tyrese Knight, but I do suspect that Jeremiah Trotter Jr. was just a little too small to make sense for what the Seahawks want to do on defense. And Knight's just a little bit bigger. He's not huge or anything. There are definitely bigger linebackers out there, but I suspect they just felt like he fit a little bit better. So I think it's a fine pick. I think it's good. I'm not in love with it, but I get the sense that this is a linebacker that fits what they view as their need. AJ Barner, really good blocker, pretty much a finished product as a blocker. Not much of a threat in the passing game, admittedly. Maybe a decent check down guy, decent chain mover, but I think they wanted a finished product as a blocker in case Pharaoh Brown gets hurt or doesn't work out, and he's only here 1 year anyway. So I get the sense they wanted their third tight end to be somebody that they really believed in, ready to go day one. So I think the wisdom behind that pick is pretty fair and pretty reasonable. And then they made my favorite pick of the day, one of my guys, Nehemiah Pritchett, cornerback. And I understand that people weren't crazy about this pick because, oh, it's a cornerback. We don't need a cornerback. We got this guy, we got this guy, we got this guy. I thought Pritchett was a third round value. I thought Pritchett was maybe even like a mid to early third round value. I ended up putting him in the late third, but to me, getting that player at the start of the fifth round was remarkable. It was awesome. It was incredible. He's so fast. He's so quick. He's got good ball skills. He's got great awareness out there. He can play zone. He can play man. He can play press. Only thing he's got to work on is the tackling, which is going to be very important here. I'm not disputing that at all. But if he can just figure that out, you have a really good all-around cornerback who might be able to play inside, might be able to play outside, and is bringing some prodigious speed to the next level. Very good at preventing separation, very good at making reads when he's in zone. Just a couple of rough edges to work around, but he was one of my big sleepers in this draft. I love that pick. Lomia, I didn't know much about when we picked because he was one of the guys I missed on, which I feel bad about because by the draft, he was considered to be a roughly fifth round value by the aggregate. So I just missed on him. But initial look at him was pretty good. He's a athletic guard with experience playing in space, playing on the move. And getting him in the sixth round seemed like solid value. There were some people that had him as a fourth round pick. There were some people who were really into what he was bringing. Seems like he's a good all-around guard prospect who maybe he plays on the right, maybe he plays on the left, maybe he offers right tackle value. Few things going on there that are very appealing. So that, as near as I can tell, with my limited experience of looking at Lomia, was a great pick. DJ James, which is Pritchett's teammate from college, another really good value pick. I know it's another cornerback and people aren't crazy about that, but to me the value is there. He's clearly a good player. He's clearly bringing good things to the table here, and he's going to have familiarity with our other cornerback as well. So getting a guy like DJ James in the sixth round, I think, is really, really good. My initial look at him had me judge him in about the fourth round. I ended up bumping him down a little bit from that, but I view it as being a very solid value pick. And then you had Michael Jarrell, which I knew threw some people for a loop, and I know there were probably better things we could have done. I'm guessing that he's a guy that we really liked as a UDFA, but wanted to make sure we would get him. Nobody else would have a chance at him if we used a pick on him, because he is a phenomenal athlete, and he has experience playing in space. His main problem is just he comes from such a small school. The difference in talent between a guy he's playing against at Findlay and a guy he's going to play against in the NFL is incalculable. So we're definitely going to have to see how that plays out. And I understand that there are some guys out there that come from bigger schools that have more known quantity elements to them. But this was a guy the Seahawks were clearly willing to bet something on. This is kind of like Jarek Reed II last year. Somebody in this organization really liked that guy and was willing to, I would argue, overdraft him. So I'm not against it. I would have done other things maybe, but I don't think it's bad. I don't think it's bad at all. I think it's fine. And overall, I think this draft was successful. I think this was a really good draft. I think that we had a better draft last year. And of course, the draft the year before was almost unbeatable. That was an incredible draft. So I'm not saying this is the best draft we've had recently. I don't believe that. But it is a very good draft that has done wonderful things for our future, in my estimation. Now I want to see what we do in UDFA. I can see people in the chat are already saying that we've gotten Jack Westover from UW, which is awesome. A guy who I thought made a lot of sense as a tight end. Now, we did get AJ Barner, so I don't know if there's room for Westover, but maybe he becomes your new practice squad tight end, and a guy like what's the guy's name? Shoot. The guy we got from the Eagles. The guy we got from the Eagles last year. Maybe he goes and maybe he just becomes tight end 4 on your practice squad. If he got through the draft, he might get through waivers and get to your practice squad. No problem, right? So you've got that. And then you've also got Nelson Caesar, one of the edge players who was, in my estimation, very clearly a draftable player. So we're already off to a pretty good start with UDFA stuff with Westover and Caesar. So I feel like we're on the right track here. We've also got George Holani, the running back from Boise State. I know a little bit about him. He wasn't my favorite remaining running back, but he also wasn't somebody I looked at a ton. Not going to judge him either way, but I do want to get some running backs in this UDFA class. I think we're going to need one. So see you guys later. Go Hawks. Going to get this video up, and then we're going to see what happens on the Brady Russell. Yes, thank you. That was the tight end from the Eagles. All right. Catch you guys later. Go Hawks. Going to get this video up, and then we're going to see what UDFA has in store for us.